There we go.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the October board meeting for the NAAS. It's Friday, October 15th. And even though we're recording the meeting, do we have a volunteer who would take minutes as well, since Amy Shuck can't be with us today? Doesn't have to be perfect. Somebody just make some notes as we go through the agenda. You can work with the agenda that we have on file.
All right, I'll do it, but don't expect anything other than really general detail.
Just notes. I mean, nobody wants to read long minutes, but just some bullets would be great. Thank you.
And I did not receive that email.
You did not receive the email just now, or the one? Yeah.
That's correct. Either one of them.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to make a note to work on that. And I'm glad we found out about it. Anybody else not getting the emails to the board listserv? You should have got one earlier today from me. Okay. That's good. We're most of the way there. Does anybody have the link to just that agenda document that you could share in the chat? I'll find it here in a second. Okay, thanks, Kelly. Awesome. Everybody open that document. Yes, okay. I tried to put links in there so that we could see everything. The thing at the very top is, close this one here. The thing at the very top of our agenda, which is the time-sensitive thing, is that we have the 990 tax return to review. And Ernie, do you want to say anything about this? Ernie's been working very closely with our tax preparer.
Yeah, yes, I'll try to give a little synopsis. You probably know that our last CPA was not certified, had lost his certification process, and the tax filings have actually been wrong for the last 3 or 4 years. So fortunately, we found Timbaland, who we now have on contract, and she has helped us straighten out the mess. And as of today, 10/15, we have to send our edited last year's 990 and this year's 990 in. So I went ahead and did a DocuSign this morning about 10 o'clock, hoping that there is no exception from you guys to give any exception, because the deadline is today. Timbaland and Amanda and I have been working. We have probably had 15 meetings with Timbaland over the last 6 weeks, getting everything squared away from our past CPA, getting it current, getting it as correct as we think possible, with our last fellow making so many mistakes. So in haste, if I don't hear anybody saying no, I'm going to email her and tell her to file it. But we have looked at this inside, outside, upside down, and we believe to our 100% possibility that it's correct. And I don't know, Amanda, is there anything else that I'm leaving out?
I mean, yeah, obviously people can't go through like every line of this thing in the next 5 minutes. I will just point your attention to, there's one place where she had to make an adjustment. It's $4,700 because the accountant before was not using the correct reports to prepare the tax forms. So she figured this out, thankfully, and is making that $4,700 adjustment. And then I just feel like we're getting on a better footing now for those future returns. So we're better than we have been in the past. Like the board is actually seeing it on the day that it gets submitted, which I don't think has ever happened in my time here. So I'm happy for that. We did ask about a extension. Timlin did not advise us to do that extension. She thought it would be ready to go. If you all are uncomfortable with that, yes, technically we could still ask for an extension.
No, I just have one question. Why is it due now?
It's 6 months after the end of the tax year. And I'm glad you're bringing this up, actually, because we have always thought that the end of the tax year was June 30th, which would make it due November 15th, which is when a lot of nonprofits file their tax returns.
You answered it. Thanks. I got it.
Okay.
Yep, got it. It's because that's the schedule we're on.
But the schedule we're on has been May 31st.
Yep.
So
Got it.
that's why.
Simple.
I'd like to get it changed, but that didn't happen this year.
Yep.
I do see in the chat, we have one person saying that we should file for an extension. So I'm open. I never even asked Timlin if that was a possibility. So I'm sorry about that. I never did.
I did
Bernie,
ask her.
is there any one particular item here that you'd like to point out for discussion?
I think the item that there's probably two items. Number one, Amanda said there was a $4,700 discrepancy from our former CPA to the present current. The other thing was that our CPA was taking what I was told to give was from basically the fiscal year ending June 30th. However, this new person says it's actually May 31. So we have kind of two discrepancies here. Filing something appropriate to the deadline of our actual fiscal year and correcting mistakes that was made by our previous CPA, as well as, I'm sure you heard the discussion before, the year before our CPA wasn't even licensed to file it. So those are probably the three things that were in error that's being taken care of by the corrected version of what she wants to file today.
I really don't have a problem accepting this because several eyes that we trust and who are familiar with the reports have looked at this, and I put my faith in them. And this is why we have subcommittees to review things that we can't all look at one time. So I'm okay approving it today, but I don't have strong feelings.
I agree with Dave.
Go ahead. I feel really bad because it's come to this, but being the treasurer, I try to have all the books open, but I was just working with what I was told to have done. And apparently that was an error. And fortunately, Timlin has caught it. She's corrected everything with this particular document. And maybe some of you have seen it, I don't know, but it's probably, I don't know what, 30, 40 pages long. I don't know what it is. It's very lengthy. But I think it's going to straighten it out. Now, should there be an error, if you guys agreed for me to tell her to file it today, because today's the deadline, she would like to get it cleaned up today. If there is a filing issue that you would find in like 3 months or 6 months after you've had a chance to digest the report, should you want to look at it, and hopefully you board members would, we could still file an edited version. But she believes, and believe me, we've had so many discussions. I mean, yesterday, I don't know how many emails we went back and forth to get this discrepancy narrowed. And it's the best case scenario of anything that I have seen in the history that I've been treasurer since 2014, that this is as near correct as we can get it.
Okay, so any other questions or concerns? I'm seeing a couple thumbs up, which is nice. I know it's a headache, I'm sorry.
You know,
I appreciate y'all
you know,
looking at it.
the only thing I might say is that this all depends on good bookkeeping, and that's what makes it really difficult. You know, we have a bookkeeper who does all of our stuff. So when we have any of those questions, it's not our treasurer that has to scratch her head and say, what's going on? You just go back to the bookkeeper and say, what was the expenditure on this, or what was the revenue on this? And, you know, that might be something we look towards to, you know, Ernie right now is acting like a bookkeeper as well. And it's in some respects unfair. And
Yeah,
then,
I think so too. I think having raising some money to be able to hire somebody would be great.
it's not much. It's our bookkeeper is for nonprofits. It's all she does. And she just charges us an hourly rate. And it doesn't account for more than a couple of $1,000s a year. And we have way more budgetary issues and a budget that is 6 or 7 times you guys. So I don't think it would be, and we have weekly payrolls and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
So
obviously we don't have all
I
that.
don't think it'd be very much at all to have a bookkeeper.
Yeah, I would
be-
like to shoot for that
Yeah.
someday too.
Yeah,
And Ernie said he wants to get some better software. So right now we're not using QuickBooks. We're using a simplified. Quicken is not quite as sophisticated as QuickBooks. So that will help a little bit too, if you still have a volunteer treasurer. All right,
Okay.
so
So
if
are
I
you
don't
telling me,
see-
Amanda, are you directing me to send that email? to
I mean, if
Timberland?
I don't see any other objections, I'm
Well-
gonna ask Ernie to tell Timlin to submit it for us. Okay. All right, thanks, everybody. Glad to
All
have that getting squared away.
Ernie, now that that is settled, one real quick question. First, personally, thank you so much for taking care of this. I trust you more than anybody else. And thank you for finding Timolin. Are we going to consider any action against the former CPA who didn't do a good job for us?
Mike Strauss said he was gonna file a complaint form, which I
Yeah.
believe he did.
Yeah, I have not finished it, but what I'm gonna ask, I just asked Ernie to provide me a list of what the corrections were on the current one. The more information, the more specifics we can give on that complaint form, the better it bolsters our case. So I think I'm glad I waited until I know this. So now we have a fairly good list of things that were not done that we thought were done. And that will go in shortly. I don't think we need to do any more than that, Philip. Yeah, one could argue that we could sue him to recover damages, but I'm not sure we're talking about being inordinately hurt by it, other than if there was a problem later on with the IRS, in which case I think we would then turn to him if the IRS came after us for errors and wanting to hold us responsible. I'd rather reserve it for that eventuality or potential.
Yeah, we still don't know. We should clarify. We still do not know if we are gonna face penalties because the 1099s were never filed. That is something that is technically speaking subject to penalties from the IRS, and we don't know yet how they're gonna handle that for us. So yes, we could potentially be in a position to need to want to recover funds. I'm unclear as to when we're going to know that or how we find that out, whether we're going to get penalties or not. Timlin also made some specific recommendations, Mike, about filing that complaint form. She said there's certain things we should and shouldn't put on it. So
Okay.
let's go back and look at her advice about that. She's dealt with this quite a bit, so I trust her recommendation. But I think we should get that in ASAP.
Yeah, and I will work, I'll run it past her as well before.
Okay.
So
Okay,
I'll give
and if we could get a copy of that for our records, that would be great.
I'll give it
And
to you
maybe,
to
and
run.
maybe a suggestion might be next week or the following week, Amanda and Michael and I, and if anybody else wants to send, maybe we need to have a little Zoom or community chat and compare everything that Timlin has suggested to us that you should be including in that form, Michael.
Okay.
Thank you for taking care of that. On the agenda next, so Ernie, that's done. Thank you for taking care of that and have her send it in. We have meeting minutes from September that we can review and approve. Is everybody able to open those meeting minutes?
I wasn't, but I'm not going to have a problem with it.
Okay.
I have no problem.
If folks have looked at those, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So move.
Mike Strauss. Anybody else second? Dawn is seconding with a thumbs up to approve the minutes. Any further discussion? All in favor? Thumbs up or eyes or whatever. Okay, any opposed? All right, September meeting minutes are approved. Strategic planning update. Two things here. We have a proposal from a facilitator to help us, and that was what was in the message I sent earlier. So that's linked in your agenda, and I can put that back in the chat if anybody can't open that document. I'm very excited about this proposal. It came in under the budget, like very near the budget that we talked about. The timeline looks like what we're wanting, and I know this person to be highly competent, so I'm particularly excited about her and like the credibility that this will lend to our process. I want you all to look at it before we, finalize anything with her. Also, I want to hear an update from Philip about your part of this process. She wrote what you're doing into her proposal, and she's pleased that we're already starting in on that part of the process. So I want to hear from you too.
Do you want me to do that right now?
Sure.
Okay, well, I have some semi-prepared off-the-cuff comments here, but yes, I am forging ahead on our member academy operations and needs interview. My goal remains to contact and interview by telephone every NAAS affiliated academy. Because of my insistence of conducting this on a one-to-one person-to-person basis, it's certainly proving to be a very labor-intensive effort, but this is what I expected. But I'll also tell you, it's fun, and it's really fascinating to talk to so many of our academies. And I mean, after all, if there's anything that I can do well, I suppose it's talk on the phone. But one thing that I have learned for sure is that the NAAS, we represent just this amazingly diverse group of organizations. And I am just amazed by it. Now, backing up a little bit, last month, with the input and help of many of you, I put together a nearly 60-question survey to learn about our member academies and access their needs. That went together, that got vetted. Thank you, people. Now, here's how I'm going about this now. I will pick an academy, and after doing some research on that academy, I'll identify online the key officers. And I will send each of those key officers a personalized introductory email, and also give them a telephone call, or in most cases, several telephone calls, explaining that the NAAS is beginning this major strategic planning effort. And whether it's in the email or in the telephone call, I do have this quote, and I'll quote it here. A chief goal of this effort is to reach out to each of our member academies, learn about your individual programs, and discover how the NAAS can better serve the needs of your individual academy. I always stress that as the national organization, we want to learn about them. And once I get some communication, I'll start to press for a time for an actual phone interview, which I tell them may take about 90 minutes. I always offer to send them the questions ahead of time, but I do explain that I will personally guide them through the interview on the telephone, and that I will record all the answers on my end, so they don't actually have to do anything. The whole key to this for me is that it's very personal, a very interactive interview. And believe it or not, I've actually met with some success. I started contacting academy personnel earlier this month, and I'm right now in active contact with the first 11 academies that I've selected. I've actually conducted interviews with Ohio and Colorado, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania. Plus, I have appointments here coming up next week with the Indiana Academy, the Idaho Academy, and of course, Southern California. Now, I still kind of consider myself getting started on this process, and I'm still learning. But as I said before, I'm just amazed at what I am learning about the operations of each of these member academies. The diversity of the missions that our members academies are doing is just incredible, and I'm learning more about that every day. Well, it's kind of hard to say at this point how many academies that I'm ultimately going to be able to interview and exactly how long this will take. Certainly, much of the information can be collected, before the new year, and certainly the great majority of it can be collected by the time of the annual meeting in Philadelphia. Ultimately, the timing doesn't so much depend upon me, it depends upon all those other busy people who would choose to respond to my repeated emails and telephone calls and want to actually get back in touch with me. But as I've said before, I'm determined that the academy is going to have to tell me that they're not interested in cooperating before I give up on them. And so,
Okay, Phil,
with
can
that,
we,
are there any questions? That is it.
I would like to clarify the timeline. I mean, I know, like you're saying, you don't know how long it's going to take to reach all the people that you want to reach. I would highlight, though, that in the strategic planning proposal that we have, folks, Rachel has proposed, part of the proposal that she gave us is doing interviews with board members.
Mhm.
And also she's offered to help synthesize some of the findings from Philip's interviews, and that her goal would be to have that done around the end of the calendar year. So I'm wondering if we could shoot for that. It sounds like you might be trying to interview more than one person from each academy, which doesn't sound like a bad idea at all, really. But I'm wondering if it seems like a reasonable goal to try to get as much as we can by the end of the calendar year.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And Susan, you just asked me a question. Ultimately, this all will be amalgamated into some kind of a report. However, the actual survey questions and answers are available to you now on the web page. The surveys that I'm filling out are all done on MemberLeap, and any board member that has access to MemberLeap administration can go on and see the results of the surveys. Now, if you want to know where they are, absolutely, please contact me and I'll show you which little string you've got to go through to find
Yeah,
those
not
interviews.
everybody has a login right now, I don't think, but if you don't, I'm happy to set people up. It might be something that people want to have
Yeah.
access to the back end to be able to see those as they come in.
But yeah, anybody with it's open information to anybody on the board.
Of course. And yeah, having Rachel help if she, if we are working with her, having her help to help pull this together, and then, pull it also together with like findings from board interviews.
And
So
one more question I'd like to ask for the board, and I really don't care what the answer to this is, but some of the academies that I'm dealing with are fairly distant from us. And I know some haven't paid their dues for a while. And I'm wondering if to kind of up the level of cooperation with some of them, if I can't offer them some kind of incentive, like a break on their dues in this next cycle. And I will just throw that question out there and see what the board wants to do with it. But I'm sure that some academies would probably be a little happier to spend time with me on the phone if I said, well, you haven't paid your dues for a couple of years, so we'll waive you for this year and bring you on as a member now.
yeah, I like that idea. Michael, question.
Yep, Philip, just two things somewhat
Yes.
related to that. First question is, have you found any academies that find the 90-minute commitment to be stressful or something to prevent them from scheduling? And then a follow-up to that is, are there parts of the interview that are more important to the strategic planning than the entire scope of what we're gathering?
Well, in answer to your first question, I do realize, and I express to people gratitude for willing to spend 90 minutes on the phone answering questions. To partially alleviate that, I've offered to do those interviews just basically any time that they're available to do them. And one of those interviews that I have is scheduled for 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
Because that's and I'm happy to do that, but that's when they scheduled to do it, and they asked, can you do it then? And I said, absolutely, I can. In answer to your second question, one of the reasons why I'm doing the interviews in person and guiding the people through the questions is that so I can concentrate the questions to kind of customize them for each academy. Colorado, Wyoming has no senior academy. It's only a junior academy. So therefore, I can just simply not ask those questions. I do find, however, that a lot of the time is me answering their questions about NAAS and how NAAS works. So it's very much a lot of information going both ways.
Yeah, I agree that 90 minutes is a daunting amount of time. I mean, in a way, like, it signals to people that this is a very serious process, that we're, engaging with this in a very serious way. So I like that we're signaling that to our affiliates. I hope that you have some flexibility. Yeah, like if somebody really only has a limited amount of time, if they're also filling out the survey like in writing, maybe no, they're not doing both. Okay.
No,
Well,
no. Now,
okay.
a couple have said, hey, we'll happily do it in writing.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I'm
that can be a
happy.
substitute.
They're certainly willing to do that. However, I really think it's faster to guide them through it because I can explain the subtle nuances of some of those questions.
Okay.
And they have many questions too, like
Okay.
what's AJAS,
Right. Okay. So can we think about this, what we like having this great description from Philip about what he's doing? When we're looking at the full proposal from Rachel, you all can see how that background research, how important that is and how that fits into her full proposal. So wonder if anybody has, and like huge thanks to Philip for undertaking that for us. It's like Herculean effort.
It's a part-time job.
Yeah,
It's a part-time
it
job
is.
every day.
Most definitely. And yeah, I told him I'm jealous that he gets to talk to all the people because there are some great people in our network, and I'm delighted that you get to talk to them because I love talking to them too. Do folks have questions about the full proposal from Rachel? Like to entertain some discussion about that. If people have questions or discussion, and whether that timeline looks good and all that.
I'd like to comment what Philip is doing and say hats off too. Just some history here. The AAAS used to find the templates, and we used to help them do that. And it was part of our proceedings many years ago. And it was similar, the task of getting that information was very similar to what Philip has been doing. Again, hats off to him.
Great, thank you, yeah.
And to sidekick this, we have been working on finding the correct databases of all the leaders in each one of the academies. And I've taken Amanda's approach, which is going to the websites, and that's turned out to be very, very, very helpful. Sometimes I have to send an email to a person because I didn't get all the information I wanted. It's been most successful this time, Amanda. I've almost got all 45. I even found information on Colorado and Wyoming. It took a heck of a long time to get North Dakota. I'm working on New York. I know, Ernest, that they're not really a member, but I sort of agree with what Philip is saying. Let's wade that real easy and make sure that we have an outreach arm to these academies that aren't part of us officially right now.
Yeah, definitely.
That's it. I will be sending out the database to every one of y'all. It's pretty large of all the updates, and it'll tell you the date it was updated. And this time I've been involved with it, not just letting the students do it, but I've been involved myself. And it seems like it's going well. Thank you.
One note, it just, Don, you mentioned New York, and I would be very careful handling New York. The last time I contacted them was a general email to all academies 3 years ago, and I got a very nasty response back saying, we have said we want nothing to do with you all, and we want you to stop and desist immediately. So there's some real, Philip, I would be cautious about
New York. Thank you.
Okay. Can we look at the strategic plan proposal? Strategic planning proposal. If anybody has questions or discussion about this, I would like a few minutes to talk about it.
I thought it looked very good. I was very pleased with it.
I've also said I'm very pleased with it. Somebody else.
I like the plan. There's something I would like to just ask everybody, where does it involve the state academies approving a draft? It would seem to me that once we get a draft, in that process before she then gives us at the very end, and I didn't get a chance to look at it till just now because I didn't have access to the file. But right at the end, I think we have an omission there that we have to go back to her and just have her tweak so that just the process of when a draft is like, let's say approved, or we've bought into the draft, then we have to present that draft and ask for comments from the state academies, and then we come back and with the academies approve it. I mean, what is
Yeah, I
everybody
like that,
feeling?
that the board,
Yeah,
yeah, the board asks for comments, I think, from the state academies. I wouldn't say like approve it or not. I think it's really up to the board to approve it finally, but with
Yeah.
input from the state academies, I think we would have much more confidence. Yeah,
Peter,
I like that.
I think we would be in a position with the timeline to have a comment period and then finalize it and present it as the final draft
yeah,
at the Assembly of Delegates meeting.
good. Yeah, I just didn't see that in the timeline with her there, and she should maybe be aware of that, because we might get comments back from the states and go, well, we forgot that, and then we go back to her, and maybe we, somewhere in there should have a sentence or so for her to understand that her fulfilling her end of the process will involve some input from the state academies.
Yeah, I think it would be over the summer, next summer, because it looks like, the whole thing is meant to end in June, maybe early summer. The whole thing is meant to end in June because that's when our budget period ends. So it would be toward the end of that period, I would say, that we could build a time in there
Okay.
for state academies to have a look at it.
Okay,
I think that works.
Yeah, I like that too.
sure. That works.
Let the minutes show that's a small request that we'd like to put in there.
Yeah, Peter, I think that just not to belabor it at all, but I think that gives them some ownership in the process. And I think that's excellent.
Yeah. And like, if we have a report of like, here's what we learned from you in this amazing process of the interviews, like, I think people will be very interested to see that too, so we could have a whole folder of things that people can kind of look at to go along with it.
And I will tell you, I'm certainly keeping some notes as to, Amanda, you need to reach out to this
Yeah,
person.
good. And updating contact information goes without saying in the database in MemberLeap. So we'll coordinate on that too. All right, well, 919-336-188 is entering the waiting room. I don't know who that is.
Somebody in,
Oh, maybe that's Amy. Amy, is that you calling in? I bet that's Amy. Okay, because she said she'd be on the phone. Good. All right, great. So with no further comments, I am going to ask for that one addition edit, and I'd like to sign this and get her to work. And then you can all expect to hear from her to schedule an interview one-on-one. Actually, it'll be her colleague who's doing the personal interviews with board members. So you can expect to hear from her in the next maybe 30 to 60.
Okay.
All right, I'm excited, you all. This is huge. I'm very excited. Thank you for your support and participation. Okay. Oh, also it dawned on me today that if we're spending 10,000 of our staff budget this year on the strategic planning, there's another 10,000 that we'll still have available. And I still want to pursue getting some part-time administrative help to do some of the things like data management and whatnot. So I don't have any concrete thoughts on that right now, but I think we should formulate some sort of request for help, like a description of some kind of part-time assistance, and start to get that out around. So folks have thoughts on that. I have a lot of thoughts on it, but I'd like to spend that other 10,000 or so.
Yeah. Amanda, what would be your highest priority? And then I'll suggest one.
I mean, I think database management is my highest
Yes.
priority, and communications.
Yes. Just from my work with the academies, it points out how important it would be on MemberLeap to have that 5,000 line membership list continually updated. And just keeping that updated. I mean, that's a $10,000 a year job for somebody.
It's a paid job. It's a paid
Yes,
job.
it is.
So Philip, maybe together, I know in your ample spare time, maybe, and in my ample spare time, maybe we can work together on that and float it. All
I
right,
think that would be if we're going to spend the money, updating those member lists would be
Yeah.
probably a good place to do it.
I think Sejong would have some input into this too, because I know he has like a project, a data project that I threw to him too. So we could probably figure something out between the three of us. All right, so I'm just gonna say that now. We'll put a pin in it and come back. But
And-
I'm very eager to have help with that.
Question. It sounds like that would be an employee.
Yes, or a contract.
I don't, I just went through this with our lawyer and our bookkeeper and our insurer. And unfortunately, I know this too well. This would probably have to be an employee.
We can talk about it.
Yep. I'm just.
That would be a more involved process, but we
Well,
can talk about it.
The reason being, if you bring a person on and they have pretty much an extended job to do that has no endpoint in time,
Yeah.
and you're heavily involved in how they do their work and supporting them,
Yeah,
by the state laws that of every state I know of, that puts you in to the employee. And the only reason I bring this up is because then it's not, you have workman's compensation and all the other stuff that you have to pay for. So that just keep that under your bonnet, because there's going to be additional cost in just paying the person for their services.
yes, we should talk about it.
So just be aware of that.
Yeah, Pete, just in 15 seconds though, if to be a contractor, if we gave them the task and an endpoint for the completion of the job, doesn't that push them more into the contractor world?
We
Yeah.
could do it that way, like if we
would.
anticipate hiring permanent, director, we could put this as a temporary thing until we have a,
Yeah,
full
it would.
person.
There's
So,
15 questions that most states go by, and I can send the form to you so you know. But there's some red flags there. One of them that you just mentioned, Philip, is the term of service. But a biggie is the interaction with the
Right.
people that you're working for. That's the biggest red flag. If you're working with them a lot and they're instructing you how to do your job, then that's one of the big red flags for employee.
good
Yeah.
thing to know about. So let's keep our eye on that.
And Pete, just one last on that issue. Someone gave me an example once where they said, if I hire you to dig a ditch, and I said, I want it done on this Thursday, and I want you to do it this way, then you're an employee. If
Yeah.
I hire you and say, I want a ditch dug, do it sometime in the next month, and then I leave, then you're a contractor.
Yeah, it's a good analogy.
Okay, Junior Academy report from Kelly.
Sure. So hopefully everyone can access my report somehow through the internet. In general, so we're planning the hybrid meeting for February 16th through 20th in Philadelphia, and there's a lot of details in the report. We'll be going and doing a site visit next month. And at the end of the report, I have a list of organizations that are kind of on my mind to reach out to possibly. If anyone has any contacts in Philadelphia that you think would be interested in helping get us in touch with the right people or host events at institutions, definitely please let me know or put me in contact with that person, and that would be great. And just as a quick update, we had a meeting with Project Board again today, and they have a lot more live integration options. So that might work well for hosting the posters and doing a live poster interactive session where people can live chat with the student who's presenting the poster, and we can give a specific time for people to interact there. And also in Project Board, we can host like a college fair hall and try to recruit colleges to talk about that, talk about admissions, and have a sponsorship hall. So there's all these spaces within project board to try to work with to make a remote and hybrid conference experience for students, in addition to the in-person experience that those coming in person will have. Are there any questions about any of that or anything that was in my report?
Hey Kelly, I just have a quick question. Amanda, within the agenda is, for me, it looks like Kelly's report is going back to the agenda. Is that just
Oh,
me?
no.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It is.
Oh, no, I didn't follow that link because I had it on my computer. I will drop it
That's
into
okay.
the chat right now.
Hang on, I think I have the link. I can put it in the chat.
Yeah,
Suzanne,
that link-
thank you for,
That link opens up the old minutes.
okay.
Uh-huh.
Try either of those and see if that works better.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, thanks for speaking up.
Let me see if there's anything else.
Kelly, I love the idea of like bringing on colleges for a expo or something. We talked about this in the committee meeting, but I'm thinking about like reaching out to our state academies, and they have like institutional members, you know, they have networks to all the colleges. So let's figure out a pitch and get them, you know, entice them to show up and think about like what it would cost, like what we would
Yeah.
charge them, you know, it shouldn't be too
That's-
much, but
We reached out, or Lee reached out to a person associated with ISEF to see what their standards were, because they ran a very big version of a project board.
Yeah.
Much fancier than we might be doing, but to see what their standards were for sponsors and for colleges. Because the
Right.
colleges basically end up set up with a little virtual booth that looks
Right.
like a booth in a convention center, and they can upload slides, and with the chat feature, you can also chat with admissions people.
great. Yeah, if we have like, yeah, some mock-up or something, like how do we show them what it is and get them to give us a little bit of money?
Yeah.
Sounds awesome. All right.
Kelly?
Yes,
I-
Phil.
Oh, were you able to get in voice communication with Robert Helm?
Not yet. So I'm gonna reach back out to him and try set up a Zoom call with us before we go down to Philly. Sounds
Because
like-
he was one of my interview subjects, and he was gushing with offers for help.
Oh, good. Yeah,
to-
he's
to help
an
us.
annotated map with drawings of where different things were and little comments about them.
Well, one of his comments to me over the phone was, he said, well, you know, I don't want to invade or anything, but would you let me come down to Philadelphia with you and, you know, show you around?
Yeah.
And he did seem to know kind of everything about science in Philadelphia. And
Oh.
so if he could come join us as a local guide,
Yeah.
that would be phenomenal. He was very knowledgeable and very good. And he also said that, and he volunteered the fact that, oh, I think my high school would give me comp time to come down for those 2 days.
Oh, wow.
So
And Kelly,
he's eager.
and
Okay,
Kelly,
good.
Bob
Yes.
Solomon from Delaware Valley Regional Science Fairs is going to be just as resourceful. And
Yes.
I thank you for seeing me.
Because Bob also recommended Robert Helm, so I'm hoping I can just make a big bad Zoom call of all things Philadelphia.
Yep,
Yeah.
great.
One of the things that our board can really help with is if you know anybody from your state academy that has connections with any of the universities. I've contacted our friends at Dartmouth, and they've given me a couple of names at the Children's Hospital down there for tours. And so because it's really helpful if we, before we go down, do the things that like Mike and Philip have just alluded to, and Kelly, that connect with those people ahead of time so that when we go down there, we already have a person who's in a position of control, and so we can talk with them and then set up the breakfast with scientists tours and such. That's going to be really important for us to be able, so people know that are kind of new. This is the way we defer a biggest chunk of our costs at the AJS meeting. if we have the sponsors that actually step in and say, okay, we'll pay for this when you're here, we'll pay for this when you're here, that's where we save the biggest chunk of money.
Yeah, and especially with possible COVID regulations, we might be splitting bigger events across multiple venues, in which case you have a busload of kids going here, two
Yeah.
busload of kids going there. So we will likely need more venues than we have in previous years for HS.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm trying to get, in past years when I've had friends that have been deans, let's say at Northeastern or in places like that, it's really helped us get them to support the breakfast with scientists or tours for free, and then providing the breakfast for the students or the lunches when they go to those tours. So if any of you have connections, especially with deans or provosts at any of those colleges in the area, it's going to be really helpful, because if we don't hook up with the right people, we end up spinning our wheels, and then we don't have the support we need.
Could I comment just real quickly about the tour thing? We haven't really talked about this very much at all because of the
Yeah.
COVID scenario. When the group is down there or is in Philadelphia looking and speaking with people, it's really helpful if we could go to a larger venue and then split up at that single larger venue, much like the University of Texas situation was in Austin. That was easy to handle a lot of people going in 15 different directions at one time in small groups. And we all know that with the COVID issues, small groups is going to be a key thing. So if we could get people to one or two large locations where they can split into a diversity of activities, such as a university campus, or maybe 2 or 3 university campuses, that would logistically help things out. And I think that's a more doable and workable option for these guest tour places.
Yeah,
Just
that makes a lot of
thoughts
sense.
from a few years of experience.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And just keeping track of where everyone is.
That's not a problem once we get there. It really isn't. It's a matter of getting small groups to make these tours doable. Otherwise, they're probably not going to happen. We're not going to be able to get 50 kids into a lab.
No, yeah, and that's going to be really important for the site visit to see what different institutions' limitations are in terms of numbers and places where people can and can't go. It's in the report. We are going to have a requirement that the students are vaccinated, especially because a lot of college campuses and places like the Children's Hospital in Philly are going to want that. And it's just really important for us with kids coming from a bunch of different states and then going back. And we do our best to not be a super spreader.
Yeah, if vaccinations were not required, I would not be going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, registration, we're still aiming for registration as early as November.
Yeah, early November. I have to, once Karen is, so we have a team member, Karen, who I know from NHAS, and she's going to be doing a lot of the registration and event planning minutia. So once she's in member leap, she and I will start picking that apart and updating it for this year and adding a checkbox for COVID-19 vaccinations.
What if we get pushed back on that?
So,
I think the committee talked about that. It sounds like these are things, like we're getting into some details that I would like to,
Right.
keep in the committee if that's okay, just so we can get through our agenda. Or talk to Kelly, because, she's thought all this through, I know.
I think the short answer is we hope that we don't,
Right.
and we'll deal with it as it comes up. But I think we're going to have to be pretty forceful on this, because it's not, we can't just have a bunch of kids that aren't vaccinated.
I have
right, Kelly,
another
thank you.
question real quickly.
yeah.
And it
Go
may
ahead.
be because of the email issue we were having. I didn't know registration was even open right now.
No, it's not open yet.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood. It'll be open. It will be open in November.
Yeah, we'll be opening in like early November.
Okay. I misunderstood.
Yeah, sorry about that. No, we're not there yet. Thank you.
Okay, Kelly, thank you. That's awesome. All right, I was hoping for David Terrain to be here to give us an update from the Development and Fundraising Committee. He has reluctantly agreed to chair that committee. But we did meet and we have some good ideas. I will just highlight a couple, though we don't have like an official meeting notes from that meeting, but Mike Wojtek is on that committee and he's working on a couple of letters that we're going to be sharing about trying to get some of our existing funders to put up a challenge grant and then enticing new funders to match up to that grant. I think that was one of Donna's ideas. And we have a bunch of other ideas. One of the things was to leverage Project Board and the visibility that that offers us as a place for sponsors. I guess that was done last year, but I want to see if we can do that a little bit more and better this year, in addition to the colleges, which we really didn't do last year. And then I also want, this is an ask for all of us on the board. We have a list on our website of all the friends of the Junior Academy. Some of us know some of those people, and those are people that we should be asking for donations. They've given donations in the past in different amounts. So I think all of us should ask some of them, like maybe we divvy them up somehow. The folks that you know, you can ask. And then folks that we don't know, we can just, make a relationship there, make an introduction. So those are people that we should be asking. And we have we brainstormed some other places that we want to be looking for funds. We also talked about working with states, like getting in a more partnership with states so that in cases where we can work together on fundraising, like we can approach a funder that maybe does give money more locally or regionally and work with a state to maybe do some joint fundraising. Maybe we can help support them in going and making that request. Those are some long-term goals too, but we haven't done that in the past. And I think a lot of states are really looking for assistance and support on fundraising. So I think we have an opportunity there. Okay, Mike says, oh, AAAS is not doing an exhibit hall. Okay, good. Well, that's good to know. All right, any questions or ideas to throw into the pot on fundraising for this year? I think Kelly will come back to you and iterate a little bit on what that looks like and get our messaging and our resources and everything out to people.
Sure, sounds good.
Cool. Please get in touch with David Terrain, who reluctantly agreed to chair that committee. We need some momentum. So I welcome everybody's participation on that. I know, Dawn, you said you were interested and we missed you at the committee meeting, but you had said you were interested in helping with fundraising. So appreciate that if you want to jump in at some point.
Thank you, I will.
Okay, great. Treasurer's report, Ernie, you have like a short treasurer's report, if you want to share that.
Yes, treasurer's report. Let me get you the balance. Basically, while I'm bringing this up, we now have Kelly all on board. We have Timlin on board. Contracts are in place, and presently our everything's paid up to date. Our present treasury balance. Oops, hang on a second. I just clicked out the wrong one. Hang on just a second. Is $134,484.76 presently as of to date. Short and sweet. Any questions?
Okay, and that number is different from what went out earlier this week because you wrote a couple checks to Kelly and Timlin.
Yes, I did. Yep, we're all caught up and up to date, so everything's current.
Thank you. Ernie's earning his keep over there, I'll tell you what.
Thanks.
Okay, The last thing, I'm so delighted this is not a 2-hour meeting, at least not yet. I don't think it is. We have a couple announcements and upcoming events. Dawn, do you have an update on when that newsletter is coming out or things you're still waiting for?
Yes, I hope to have the first draft to all of y'all next week. We have just finished touching up some massive thing of going through all the 45 states and making sure what we got there for our Academy News is accurate. And I think we have it now. And Amanda, I'm going to shoot that to you even before we publish the newsletter. We are waiting on the photos and articles about you, the board. And there's about 5 or 6 people I would really like to have in that issue. And Amanda, I wrote an article that you wrote. Well, I doctored your article and it sounds pretty good. I sent you a copy of it today. You'll have to approve it, but I know you're really busy. So
I
figured
want
I'd
you
do
to
that.
use the thing I sent you on the 11th. I sent you something on Monday. I'd like you to use that.
Okay, I'll have to find it. You might want to send it again because I don't think I got it, but and I'm
It
in
was
pretty
the
good-
thing that you've been asking for weeks, like profiles of all the board members. That's what I sent you.
Yeah, that's one thing, but you also have a lead article on page 1.
Yeah, that's okay. Just use the thing I sent you and put that on page 1.
Good enough.
Thank you. Anybody else you wanna harass right now about sending you a bio and a profile? Or they know who they are.
I think I've harassed them enough, and I also
Okay.
sent those a
Okay.
short thing, but we have some really good ones. It's going to be exciting to read this, and I'm
Great.
glad we did it. I would love to do this and go into the past and get all the presidents of the academy and what they're doing now, and make that a publication back all the way back to as far as we could go. That's a big task.
Maybe
Thank you.
students, maybe students. That's sort of what Sejong is working on too, is like getting updates from our student stars. All right, so no date on that, no date when that's coming out.
Hopefully I said next week, but I think I've got all the articles. If I got yours, I was waiting on yours. If I got yours, I'm in good shape. Isaac has been really busy. He's majoring in math now. He switched from engineering, so he's real busy now. But anyhow, we'll see what
Maybe we'll
happens.
send out some special messages after registration is open. Maybe we'll do like some special additional communications about that, make sure everybody gets those links and information.
Good enough. Thanks.
Great. 2 things I wanted to highlight for you all. The Council of Scientific Society Presidents, which we talked about briefly at the last board meeting, they have free events every month, and I'm tuned into some of those. I think Kelly actually tuned into one. And they have 2 coming up related to board governance, it sounds like. So I'm going to tune into both of those. And the November one sounds like it's about strategic planning. So if that really is, I wanted to share that with all of you. It's November the 18th at 12:30 Eastern. And then the October one is also about governance, and it is October 21st at 12:30 Eastern. So those are free. Those people are wanting us to pay them money and join up as a paid member, which I told her politely that we can't commit to do right now. But I want it on our radar. They do have, some services, and they have like, other trainings and things we could get access to if we joined up as members. So meanwhile, I'm more than happy to take advantage of all the free stuff and just get to know more about what they're doing. So those links are in the agenda. If you don't have those links and want to go, give a shout to me and I'll forward them again. The other thing, Suzanne, do you have any updates? Suzanne has been helping me organize the Academy chat for November, and I'm excited about this. So I wonder if you want to tell us a bit about what you have in mind.
Well, I mean, so I've reached out to the 3 people because I think I would talk on fellowships. So I've reached out to the 3 people that lead fellows, Sea Change, and LSEN network this week, and haven't heard back from everyone yet. So, but hopefully we'll soon. So I think that's, those topics are great, and I think should be fine. Hopefully we'll have a confirmation on that early next week on the date and of those people. One thing I wanted to ask though, in our exchange, Amanda, was I think it might have come from Donna, something you said about the academies could get AAAS fellows placed with them, and I'm not sure what that means, right? And I did talk to Andrew about that, and he had no idea either. So I wanted to bring that up again to see if we get clarification on maybe what that was about. I don't
Okay,
know.
Donna's microphone is not working, or maybe she had to jump off, actually. Looks like she
Okay.
ended. Okay.
But that doesn't ring with anybody else, state academies, like place to work with them at the academy? Is that what you think that she
I
meant?
think that's what that means. I think that when somebody applies for a fellowship, and I'm not sure like which kind of fellowship or any kind of fellowship, I think sometimes when somebody applies for a fellowship, they can request, or they have an organization that they already have in mind that they want to work with. And this is second or third hand information, but somebody approached me a couple of years ago saying they were applying for a fellowship. Would we be interested in like putting in on her application as like a community organization that she was interested in working with? And I was like jumping up and down, yes, please.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
But
Okay,
then
so-
Donna had like additional information. So there might be more to it.
So
than
just based on what you just said, because what I think you had asked me about was AAAS fellows, which is very different
yeah, different.
than, right. So AAAS fellows very different than potential. We have multiple kinds of fellowships.
Correct.
So it's possible that there's a fellowship at AAAS that aligns to what you're saying. I can see if I can find out more about that. There's not one person that oversees all the fellowships at AAAS. There's, multiple programs. Yeah, so
Okay.
that helps a little bit. I talked to the person who oversees or fellows, and he was like, I'm not sure what that means.
No, not the
So,
honorary fellows.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Anybody else heard of this? Did I make this up? Okay. Let's find out if there is an opportunity, for somebody who's applying for AAAS fellowship to be working with a state academy, like that would be an amazing thing for state academies to know about. It's a great resource to build capacity in our states. So if that's something that is possible, like I'd love to market that.
Nothing is coming to mind immediately for me, but I will go and look at all the fellowships and see. But those that are sort of larger scope, nothing is seeming like it would. And then maybe if you hear back from Donna, maybe we can touch base with her and get more information. All right. So more on that to come soon.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited that you're helping with that. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Any of you, do you have events or announcements that you would like to share? Okay. Interesting webinars, trainings, things coming up.
I'm hoping to go fishing soon.
Okay, an ichthyology update from Michael Strauss.
Michael, what's this dog that we see every time you speak?
Oh, that's my daughter works for a dog daycare company, and she also uses my Zoom. So she changed the picture from me and the horse to a dog so that we could both use it.
Okay.
Excellent. All right. If folks do have events, I would really love for us to highlight more of our events coming from our state academies on our website. Like we have a calendar there where we can publicize if you have cool things going on. Like now that so many things are virtual, there's like webinars and trainings and lectures and things that people can tune into from anywhere. So if there's something really neat happening that you want us to share with our colleagues nationally, like let's get it up on our website. There's cool stuff happening every week.
I have one thing that might be of interest. Most of you know we founded a foundation in Nepal after the earthquake, and we're going to be having a Zoom with people that may want to go and volunteer in the remote mountain regions of Nepal in 2022, probably May and or June. I'll be there probably both months, but typically people come in for 10 days, 2 weeks. So if you're interested, send me a link or send me an email and I'll get you the info. But we do a lot of science education And it'd be great to drag some of you scientists along with us.
Cool. Thanks. And then one last question. Is anybody bored and wants a project working with spreadsheets? We have some data on spreadsheets that I'm looking for help with, if anybody's interested. Until we can hire somebody for some money, but
Amanda, I'm not bored and I have lots more than enough to keep me busy, but I'm reasonably good at writing the code for spreadsheets to automate them. So if you have some specific issues you want to deal with, I can see what I can do.
I can show you what we have. It's basically like cutting and pasting and formatting in preparation for uploading, like importing data into MemberLeap is what it would be. So it's pretty mindless stuff. But yeah, it's just time that I don't have to do it and nobody else, to help with it. So it would be great. It would help us get more of our record keeping up to date. But I can follow up. All right, you all, we got done early and we had a great meeting and it's happy hour for some of us. So, or we have to go to another meeting right now. But thank you all for your efforts and reports and appreciate you all for all your work. Last chance, last call.
Amanda, when can I schedule you to do my survey?
Oh, after November 6th, please.
Okay.
My annual meeting is in 3 weeks.
Okay.
David Bass, you have a question?
Yeah, I do. We're talking about beginning to get our states registered in the next few weeks. And it appears that vaccinations will be required to attend the meeting, which is fine. Meetings in February. Has anybody heard if there is a restriction as to how old the vaccine can be, how old the vaccination could be to attend the meeting in February? 6 months since they were out, 8 months, a year, just any time. Does anybody know? Because by February, some people's vaccines will be over a year old.
Yes, yeah, so I keep abreast of this every day because these are issues for us statewide with our academy. And so as you know, in November, the 5 to 11-year-olds will start getting vaccinated. And of course, that'll take a total of 6 to 8 weeks. And adults are not required to get a booster. If you're over 65, you're recommended to get a booster. But to my knowledge, and if you can check with the CDC, I just checked with it yesterday, you're not required to, and you still are considered to be protective, both as an infectious agent and a person who can get infected. So that's probably a more complex answer than you wanted, David, but that's as good as I can do.
I'm just wondering if they will say any vaccine card will work, or if your most recent vaccination has to be within 8 months or
So
something.
we're not asking for vaccine cards as far as I know, but if they do commit to being honest, and they say they've been fully vaccinated, which means 2 shots, with the second shot being at least the 3 to 4 weeks, depending on the vaccine, we're going to consider them fully vaccinated. And that's about as good as we can probably do.
Not
Yeah,
worry
I think
about
unless they
Yeah.
start authorizing boosters, I don't think they're getting there yet.
No.
I mean, we'll watch the CDC guidance, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So if anything changes between now and then, Kelly's going to be on top of it.
it. I was just concerned with what AAAS was saying, not what NAAS.
Right. I mean,
Oh,
yes, and I knew that's what you meant. I'll keep an ear out for that too. And I've typed the question and I'll see what I can find out as well. I've heard nothing yet on that, so.
I know when I talked to AAAS a long ways ago, they said that they weren't sure if they were going to require vaccinations for in-person AAAS, but I would hope that that's changed by now.
I think it is. I think they are requiring it,
Okay.
but I will double check on that.
It seems
Thank
like
you.
I saw something a couple of weeks ago indicating AAAS was going to require for the in-person attendance.
Right. What I know
Okay.
is, I think that's true, because we just were given permission to start in-person meetings just last month. We did our first in-person meeting and vaccinations were required. So that was decided by, senior leadership, and we had to make it happen pretty quickly. So I can't imagine that that's going to be different for the meeting, but I'll double check, or I'll see what I can find out.
All right. Good, you all. Thank you again.
Yeah, just so you know, the AAAS online shows that they do require it for the in-person meetings.
Hmm.
Good.
That was what I thought.
Do we want to schedule a meeting in November or early December? You want to wait till after registration is open, maybe do something early December? What do y'all think? That'll be about 6 weeks out.
Do we will have one scheduled? I thought it was every second Monday or every second Friday. Is that not true or not?
We were doing every first Friday, and I don't know that we have to keep doing them every single month. Maybe
Does Kelly need something before registration goes out?
I don't think so. Just if you know people in Philly, send them my way.
Okay.
Yeah, Amanda, I think around the 15th of December is fine. I wouldn't go much later than that.
I wouldn't go later than that.
Yeah, and I would even wonder if the 5th, oh, sorry, that's not, no, the 3rd or 10th.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 17th is that third Friday,
No,
and that
let's
seems too
do-
late. So I would say the 3rd or the 10th.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I'd say the 10th would be fine.
December 10th. What do you think, y'all?
Sounds good.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Sounds good to
Okay.
me.
All right, I will schedule it on our new Zoom account. Thank you, Ernie and Say. And I will send that out to y'all.
On my
Thank
cal-
you. Have a great
Bye-bye.
weekend, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Bye. Thank you.